So I wanted to talk about kind of a funny story. At least I find it funny, but it also pertains to the paradigm in which we're in relation to the election. So there is an advocacy group right now that is trying to spread the message to the average Trump voter to please stop putting stickers on bears. Yes, this is a thing. There are bears roaming around with Trump 2020 on their collars. And I don't know, I find that funny. For one, I think that's insane. Like, if you have the testicular fortitude to go up to a bear and put a Trump sticker on it, yeah, you win. I mean, I don't know what else you want. But I also think it's kind of interesting because you're not going to find a single Biden voter. I don't care. The most earnest, hardened Biden voter would not take that kind of risk. And I think that kind of speaks to the whole situation of our election coming up here. Is so much enthusiasm, so much energy behind Donald Trump. The problem is there just aren't that many people. Just like how there aren't that many people who would put a sticker on a bear's collar. Uh, and again, I have no idea how they actually put these stickers on, which is why I find it funny. I think if I found out that they were tranking the bears or something like that, then that wouldn't be so funny. Uh, Potentially dangerous, but uh, in this scenario, just the way the headline of the paper was, "Bears are not billboards," and that I find funny. But furthermore, why? Why aren't there that many people who are lining up behind Trump? Now, there's still his base. Like, look, there's still 38% of the country who's gonna, regardless of any outcome, are gonna vote for Trump. And I'm not saying right now that these numbers are gonna be the same come election time. Here's the issue with mail in voting and the way that this system is gonna be working this year. Many people are going to vote a lot earlier. So we always talk about during election years, we talk about the October surprise. In 2016, it was the Comey reports. Many people believed that that had a major negative impact for Hillary Clinton. I don't know if I buy that, to be honest. I think Hillary Clinton was much more disliked than we were led to believe. Those of us that knew Hillary, knew the whole Clinton, yeah, we knew how much people hated her and hated him. So if there is an October surprise in 2020, let's say it's a vaccine. Um, let's say, in my opinion, the only thing that really will work for Trump would be sweeping economic reform. I truly believe that. And I think when you analyze some of Donald Trump's tweets, he knows that as well. In fact, recently on Twitter, he quoted, I can't remember who the outlet was, but they had an article about how wealth and income inequality is so massive in America right now that it is a problem moving forward. It is a problem that is going to hamstring us for an incredibly long time unless we fix it, unless we start adjusting it. Well, Donald Trump quote tweeted it, and he said, I agree with this. Now, I mean, honestly, no, he doesn't. Obviously. The tax cut itself, 83% of it went to the top 5% of Americans. I mean, that tax cut helped create the wealth and income inequality. So, no, he doesn't believe it, but he understands the message that in which he needs to speak to win some favor. Will he do an economic reform? I doubt it. I would have thought he would, and this is why I think Biden's going to win, because at the moment, that's the only thing that can actually help Trump. It really doesn't matter what else you could come out. I honestly believe that if Biden was caught up in some major scandal, let's say Biden was involved in the Epstein, you know, situation, I still don't think that would be enough for Trump to win, because right now people are not focused in on anything but what's in their pocket and where they're staying at night, and um, the pandemic. So if you're not addressing any of those, and Trump has not been, then you're not going to get anyone's vote come election time. And after we've seen these negotiations happen the last 2 weeks, I am so much more convinced that Trump has very little to do with what actually happens in DC. And I point to this because of things like the payroll tax cut. That was something that Trump said was a red line for him. He wants to have this payroll tax cut. It's going to happen. Mitch McConnell basically told him to go fuck off. And what happened? They took the payroll tax cut out of their stimulus package. Now, if there is, and that's just one of many, by the way, because at first there was also a capital gains tax that Trump was talking about. That got pushed off too. Now, are those two kind of sidelined because Trump and his team were like, hey, look, people are realizing about the wealthy, and the wealthy are getting handouts, and they're bleeding jobs and being kicked out of their homes. Maybe that's not a really positive message to send going into the 2020 elections. Maybe. I don't know. I kind of don't think so, because his main advisor right now is Steve Mnuchin. Steve Mnuchin is a Goldman Sachs guy. Uh, he's as corrupt as anyone else. So I don't really see where he would have gotten any of that advice. There's no Steve Bannon anymore. There's no one who can advise him on these kind of things. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting. And again, I'm not saying that it's over for Trump. It's not. But you can see that momentum is just coming to an end, closer and closer and closer. And it's namely all of Trump's doing. If Trump could handle the pandemic, if Trump could stand up and do something for the economy, for the people, then he could swing everything back in his way. And that's why I'm not ready to just count him out yet. Way too early to do that. Way, way too early. But he has to act soon. And in fact, one of my videos I did earlier this week, I talked about how Trump could completely swing this thing if he went in and he did a complete economic reform package on his own just through executive order. Now, I don't know how legal that is, and I really don't know. And I know he keeps threatening that he's going to do it. And this is why I feel like Trump is not as in as much power as we think he is. Because if Trump really was trying to play, for the 2020 seat, he would just go do it. He wouldn't threaten. He wouldn't, because here's why. Here's why he's not being allowed to do it. And that's because of Mitch McConnell. Because right now in America, we're in a failed state. A failed state is when the government cannot take care of its people. And that is exactly where we're at now. It's incredibly obvious. We've been in, stopgap before, but nothing like this. Nothing compared to what we're dealing with now. For one, our people aren't even communicating with each other. They have no idea which way they're going. Everything's a red line. The two sides are still at the same place they were 2 weeks ago. They're not making any concessions whatsoever. And that in itself is damning. It's damning for President Trump's reelection, for one, but two, just to see how little they're willing to get anything done, and how unwilling Trump is to be able to get them to get anything done. And if Trump were to, let's say, do an executive order, he also effectively puts a timeline on Mitch McConnell's time in Kentucky, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer. That one move that he could do, and he could be doing it right now, could be damning a lot of the political world that we have. But he's not going to do it, and he hasn't done it. He's just going to sit there and threaten that he'll do it, and he won't. And it's a interesting situation. But either way, I am kind of curious what you guys think about the whole story with the bear. Like, how were people putting? Do you think it's the scientists that first put the collars on the bears? Or do you think that there was actually Trump supporters running around tagging bears with Trump stickers? Anyway, you guys take care.